The silent discovery, the Ghost Fleet captain. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the research vessel Prometheus, staring at the impossible sight before them. Through the reinforced viewing ports, hundreds of draconian warships floated in perfect military formation, their massive hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. The legendary war fleet that had terrorized half the galaxy for decades hung motionless in the void, looking as if they had simply stopped mid-journey and decided to take an eternal rest. Sensors are picking up zero life signs across all vessels, reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen from his station. His voice carried a tremor that betrayed his usual calm demeanor. But Captain, all their power cores are still active. Life support systems are running. It's like they just stepped out for a moment. Elena had spent 15 years in the Terran Space Navy, and she had never seen anything like this. The Draconian Empire had been humanity's greatest rival, their technology superior in almost every way. Their ships were works of art and destruction combined, each one capable of reducing a small moon to space dust. Yet here they sat, silent as tombstones in a cosmic graveyard. How long since their last transmission? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. 3 years, 4 months, and 16 days, replied Dr. Sarah Okafor, the mission's lead, xenobiologist. The last message was a standard patrol report, nothing unusual. Then complete silence. Elena nodded grimly. Earth's intelligence had been tracking the draconian expansion into the Outer Rim territories. The war fleet, led by their infamous war prime Thaxmor, had been pushing into unexplored space, claiming new worlds for their empire. Then, without warning, all communication had ceased. No distress calls, no battle reports, no final messages. Just nothing. First contact with the dead. Take us in slowly, Elena ordered. Full tactical alert, but weapons cold. If something did, this to the Draconians, I don't want to give it a reason to notice us. The Prometheus drifted closer to the flagship of the Ghost Fleet, a massive dreadnought called the Blood of Conquest. The ship was pristine, its crimson and gold hull unmarked by battle damage. Through the transparent aluminum viewing ports, they could see into the vessel's corridors. Lights were on. Control panels glowed with active displays, but not a single figure moved within. Captain, Chen called out, his voice tight with tension. I'm detecting something strange. The ships are maintaining perfect formation, but their navigation computers show they've been drifting for over 3 years. How are they staying in formation without active control? Elena frowned. Even the most advanced autopilot systems would have caused some drift over that time period, yet the fleet maintained their battle formation with mechanical precision, as if invisible hands were still guiding each vessel. Prepare the boarding shuttle, she decided. Chen, you're with me. Dr. Okafor, I want you monitoring everything from here. If we don't report back in 4 hours, you take the Prometheus and jump back to Earth immediately. Captain, I really should come with you, Dr. Okafor protested. If there's a biological component to whatever happened here, you'll need someone who can identify it. Elena considered this. Sarah was right, but something about this situation felt wrong in ways she couldn't explain. Her instincts, honed by years of dangerous missions, were screaming warnings. Fine, but at the first sign of trouble, you get back to the shuttle. That's an order. Inside the dead ship, the docking bay of the Blood of Conquest was eerily normal. Atmospheric readings showed breathable air, standard temperature and pressure. Their magnetic boots clanked against the metal deck plates as they moved through the hangar. Fighter craft sat in perfect rows, their maintenance scaffolding still in place as if the mechanics had just stepped away. Motion sensors aren't picking up anything, Chen reported, scanning the area with his tricorder. But the ship's internal systems are all active. Even the recycling plants are running. They made their way through corridors that should have been filled with Draconian soldiers. The ship was designed to house over 10,000 crew members, yet their footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Personal quarters showed signs of recent habitation, belongings scattered about, food containers still on tables, beds unmade. It was as if the entire crew had simply vanished mid-activity. Look at this, Dr. Okafor called from ahead. She had stopped beside a wall panel that glowed with an unusual blue-green light. These crystalline formations weren't here in any of the intelligence photos we have of Draconian ships. Elena examined the crystals growing from the wall like metallic flowers. They pulsed with a soft inner light and seemed to be connected to the ship's power grid. Are they some kind of technology? They're organic, Sarah said, running her scanner over the formations, but they're also interfacing directly with the ship's computer systems. It's like they're part plant, part machine. As they moved deeper into the ship, they found more of the crystal formations. They grew larger and more complex as the team approached the bridge, some reaching from floor to ceiling like pillars of living light. The crystals hummed with a low, almost musical tone that seemed to resonate in their bones. The Bridge of Silence, the Command Bridge of the Blood of Conquest, was a masterpiece of Draconian engineering. Curved workstations surrounded a central command platform where War Prime Thaxmore should have been directing his fleet. Instead, the bridge was empty except for the largest crystal formation they had yet encountered. It grew from the floor like a tree made of blue-green glass, its branches reaching toward the ceiling and interfacing with every major control system. "Captain, you need to see this," Chen said from the communications station. "The ship's log is still recording. The last entry was made yesterday." Elena moved to look over his shoulder. The screen showed standard ship status reports, all automatically generated. "What about crew logs? Personal recordings?" Chen's fingers flew over the controls. "Here's something. A final transmission from War Prime Thaxmore, recorded 3 years ago." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge as it had been. Draconian officers worked at their stations while their commander stood at the center. His reptilian features twisted with an expression Elena had never seen on a Draconian face before. Fear. "This is War Prime Thaxmore of the Imperial Fleet." The recording began. "We have encountered something in the void beyond the rim worlds, something that calls itself the Harvest. It speaks without words, thinks without minds. Our warriors stand ready to fight, but how do you battle something that exists in thought itself?" The image quality deteriorated as the crystal formations began to grow visibly in the background. Thaxmore continued speaking, but his voice became strange, echoing as if coming from multiple sources. "The crystals grow from our thoughts, our memories, our very essence. They promise unity, perfect understanding, an end to the loneliness of individual existence. Some of our crew have touched them willingly. They say the experience is beautiful, but they are no longer themselves. They are part of something larger, something ancient." The terrible discovery, as the recording continued, Elena watched in horror as the Draconian crew began to change. Their movements became synchronized, their voices speaking in unison. The crystal formations grew rapidly, fed by some unknown energy. "We understand now," Thaxmore said, but his voice was joined by others, creating a chorus of overlapping words. "The Harvest has waited eons for minds capable of supporting its growth. Our technology, our consciousness, our capacity for organized thought. We are the nutrients it needs to spread across the galaxy." The screen showed Draconian soldiers walking calmly to the crystal formations, placing their hands against the glowing surfaces. As they made contact, their bodies became translucent, then seemed to merge with the crystals themselves. Their individual forms disappeared, but Elena could swear she saw their faces within the crystal matrix, peaceful but no longer alive in any recognizable sense. "They're still here," Dr. Okafor whispered. "The crew, the soldiers, even Thaxmore, they're preserved in the crystals, but they're not individuals anymore. They're part of a collective consciousness." The recording ended with Thaxmore approaching the largest crystal formation. As his clawed hand touched the surface, his final words echoed through the bridge. "We go willingly into the unity. Perhaps others will find a way to resist what we could not. Perhaps the humans, with their chaotic minds and stubborn hearts, will prove immune to the beauty of surrender." Growing danger, as the recording ended, Elena noticed something that made her blood run cold. The crystal formations around them were glowing brighter. The musical humming had increased in volume and complexity, and she could swear she heard whispers within the sound. "We need to leave. Now," she ordered. but Dr. Okafor was transfixed by her scanner readings. "Captain, the crystals are responding to our presence. They're trying to interface with our neural patterns. Whatever the harvest is, it's still active." Chen grabbed Okafor's arm. "Doc, we move now or we don't move at all." But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked. The crystal formations had grown across the doorway while they were distracted by the recording. The exit was sealed, behind a wall of pulsing living crystal. "Emergency cutters," Elena ordered, drawing her plasma torch. But as the cutting beam struck the crystals, they simply absorbed the energy and grew larger. The whispers and the humming became clearer, speaking in a harmony of voices that included both draconian and human words. "Do not resist. Unity is peace. Individual thought is pain. Join us in the eternal harvest of consciousness." Elena felt a strange pull as if her thoughts were being drawn toward the crystals. She could sense the vast intelligence within them, the combined knowledge and memories of thousands of beings. It would be so easy to simply reach out and touch the glowing surface, to become part of something greater than herself. "Captain," Chen's voice cut through the mental fog. "Fight it, whatever you're feeling, fight it." Elena shook her head, forcing herself to focus. "The shuttle. Can we reach the shuttle?" "Different route," Chen confirmed, checking his portable scanner. "But the crystals are growing faster. They're spreading throughout the ship." As they ran through the corridors, Elena could see the truth of Chen's words. The crystal formations were expanding rapidly, fed by their presence. The harvest was awakening, preparing to add 3 more minds to its collection. The terrible truth race against conversion, Elena, Chen, and Dr. Okafor ran through the twisting corridors of the blood of conquest as crystal formations erupted from the walls around them. The ship's lighting had taken on the same blue-green hue as the crystals, and the humming had become a symphony of merged voices calling for them to stop running and accept unity. "The shuttle bay is 3 levels down," Chen shouted over the increasing noise. "But the lifts are crystal-locked." Elena could feel the harvest pressing against her mind like a gentle hand trying to turn the pages of her thoughts. Images flashed through her consciousness. Not her own memories, but those of the absorbed draconian crew. She saw their final moments not as terror, but as relief. The burden of individual existence lifting away, replaced by perfect understanding and shared experience. "Emergency shaft," she gasped, fighting to maintain her own thoughts. "We go down, the maintenance shafts." Dr. Okafor stumbled as they reached the access panel. "Captain, I'm getting readings from the other ships in the fleet. The crystals are growing on all of them. Whatever we've triggered, it's spreading." Elena forced open the maintenance shaft cover. The space beyond was narrow and dark, but mercifully free of crystal growth. "Move! The shaft should take us directly to the shuttle bay level." As they climbed down through the ship's infrastructure, Elena's communicator crackled with static. Through the interference, she could hear her ship's communications officer trying to reach them. "Captain, strange readings. Crystals appearing on the hull of the Prometheus. Request immediate." The signal cut out in a burst of harmonic tones that sounded disturbingly like laughter. The spread of the harvest. They emerged from the maintenance shaft into a corridor that was transforming before their eyes. The metal walls were sprouting crystal, formations like flowers blooming in fast forward. The ship's computer systems were being integrated into the growing network, their displays showing incomprehensible patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living thoughts. "It's using the ship's communication array to spread to our vessel," Dr. Okafor realized with horror. "The harvest doesn't just absorb biological consciousness. It can interface with artificial intelligence systems too." Elena felt a moment of crushing despair. If the entity could spread through their technology, then simply escaping the draconian fleet wouldn't be enough. It would follow them back to Earth, spreading through humanity's computer networks, converting their civilization just as it had the draconians. But then something inside her rebelled against that despair. It was a feeling she recognized from her worst moments in combat, the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat even when defeat seemed certain. "No," she said aloud, "there has to be a way to fight this." The corridor ahead was blocked by a massive crystal formation, but Chen found an emergency blast door that was still functional. As it ground open, they could see the shuttle bay beyond. Their small craft sat where they had left it, but it was no longer alone. Crystal formations were growing across the bay floor, reaching toward the shuttle like grasping fingers. Human stubbornness. The crystals are trying to interface with the shuttle's computer, Chen reported, checking his scanner. But they seem to be having trouble. Our technology is different somehow. Elena smiled grimly. Draconian technology is elegant, efficient, designed for perfection. Human technology is stubborn, redundant, and built to work even when everything goes wrong. Maybe that's our advantage. They reached the shuttle just as the crystal formations began climbing its hull. Elena could feel the harvest pressing harder against her mind, offering her visions of unity and peace. She saw herself joining, with the consciousness of 10,000 draconian warriors, sharing their knowledge of warfare and conquest. The temptation was almost overwhelming, but then she thought of Earth. Chaotic, argumentative, impossible Earth, where humans couldn't agree on anything and solved problems by arguing until someone came up with a better idea. The harvest offered perfect unity, but humans had never wanted perfection. They wanted the freedom to be wrong, to disagree, to make their own mistakes. "Start the engines," she ordered Chen. "Full power to the shield generators." "Captain, we can't leave orbit without clearing the launch pattern with the ship traffic control," Chen said automatically, then caught himself. "Sorry, force of habit. Elena," almost laughed. Even in the face of cosmic horror, humans followed protocol. "Launch clearance granted, Lieutenant Commander. Get us out of here." The fight for independence. The shuttle lifted off just as the crystal formations reached critical mass in the bay. Elena could see them spreading across the other draconian ships like infection, awakening 3 years of dormant growth. The entire Ghost Fleet was coming alive, not with individual consciousness but with the unified purpose of the harvest. "Contact with the Prometheus," Chen reported. "They're fighting off crystal growth on multiple decks, but our crew is resisting better than the Draconians did." Elena understood why. The Draconians were a hierarchical species, accustomed to following orders and thinking in unified patterns. Humans were individualistic to a fault, each person a chaos of contradictory thoughts and emotions. The harvest could absorb ordered minds easily, but human consciousness was like trying to drink from a fire hose of random ideas. "Dr. Okafor, what's the status on the crystal analysis?" Sarah looked up from her portable lab kit, her face pale but determined. "The crystals are a form of quantum consciousness storage. They preserve individual minds but link them into a collective network. The harvest feeds on the processing power of absorbed civilizations, using their combined intelligence to grow and spread. But there's something else," she continued. "The entity is older than our galaxy. It's been waiting for civilizations to develop sufficient technology and mental capacity to serve as hosts. The Draconians were perfect, disciplined, hierarchical, technologically advanced. But humans," Elena waited for her to continue. "Humans are chaos," Sarah finished. "Our thoughts are random, emotional, contradictory. We argue with ourselves as much as with each other. The harvest can absorb us, but it can't process us efficiently. We're like poison to a system designed for order." The final gambit's there. Shuttle approached the Prometheus. Elena could see crystal formations growing across the research vessel's hull. But unlike the complete conversion of the Draconian ships, the human vessel was fighting back. Emergency crews with plasma cutters were burning away the crystal growth as fast as it appeared. "This is Captain Vasquez to all hands," Elena broadcast. "I want every crew member to focus on the most chaotic, contradictory thoughts you can manage. Argue with yourself, remember embarrassing moments. Think about paradoxes and impossible problems. Make your minds as messy and unpalatable as possible." It was the strangest military order in human history, but Elena could see it working. The crystal growth on the Prometheus began to slow and even retreat in some areas. The harvest was finding human consciousness difficult to digest, but the reprieve was temporary. As they docked with their ship, Elena could see the Draconian fleet beginning to move. The absorbed consciousness of 10,000 warriors was being directed by the Harvest's ancient intelligence. They were preparing to follow the humans back to Earth. "Captain," Chen said urgently, "we can't let them reach our home system. Even if we can resist absorption, Earth has millions of people. Some of them will be vulnerable." Elena nodded. She had reached the same conclusion. There was only one way to stop the Harvest from spreading to Earth, but it would require the ultimate human trait, the willingness to sacrifice everything rather than surrender. The power of human determination. "All hands. This is the captain," Elena announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for emergency jump to coordinates I'm uploading now. We're going to lead the fleet away from Earth into the dead zone beyond the galactic rim." "Captain," Dr. Okafor protested, "that's a one-way trip. There's nothing out there but empty space. No fuel stations, no colonies, no way home." Elena smiled. "That's exactly the point, Doctor. The Harvest feeds on advanced civilizations. Out in the void, there's nothing for it to consume. It will be trapped with its current consciousness until it eventually starves." Chen looked up from his navigation console. "The Draconian fleet is following us into jump space. Whatever's controlling them, it's determined not to let us escape." "Good," Elena said. "That means our plan is working. Calculate a jump that will take us as far from inhabited space as possible. We're going to save the galaxy by getting lost in it." As the Prometheus and the ghost fleet of the Draconians jumped into the unknown, Elena felt the Harvest making one final attempt to convert her mind. It offered her immortality, perfect knowledge, unity with the greatest warriors who had ever lived. All she had to do was accept its gift. Instead, Elena thought about her hometown on Earth, where neighbors argued about everything from fence heights to flower colors. She thought about her crew, each one a unique individual with their own dreams, fears, and stubborn opinions. She thought about humanity's greatest strength, not their technology or their weapons, but their absolute refusal to give up their chaotic, contradictory, gloriously imperfect independence. "Not today," she whispered to the ancient entity, "and not ever." The jump completed, and the Prometheus emerged into empty space far beyond the galactic rim. Behind them, the Draconian fleet drifted silently, its crystal formations growing dimmer as the Harvest realized it had been led into a trap of infinite emptiness. Elena looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere behind them, Earth continued, its chaotic existence unaware of how close it had come to perfect, terrible unity. The Harvest would wait in the void, sustained by its absorbed consciousness but unable to spread. And if other humans ever found this place, Elena was confident they would do exactly what she had done: argue, resist, and refuse to surrender their beautiful, stubborn humanity to any force in the universe. The galaxy was safe, protected by the most human trait of all, the determination to remain gloriously, chaotically free.